Hi, my name is Mariah Pena, and this is my language and cultural contact presentation. The activities that I used for this presentation were watching television shows in Spanish, listening to Spanish Spotify stations, real life experiences, which is a conversation I had with a family member. I first began by watching Netflix, the television show Narcos, for about 2 hours, which is about 2 episodes because each episode is about an hour. And just a summary of Narcos is the story of Pablo Escobar and his cartel in Colombia and what he had went through and what the DEA went through also going to find him and track everything down from the roots of it. And within the show, their vocabulary is very repetitive and commonly used slang terms. These are some, for example, that I have noticed, which is patron, which means boss, and that would be commonly used to address Pablo Escobar, and billete, which is a large amount of money, and they would use for people who would owe them money, and paisa, which is a greeting for a friend, and comuna, which is an organization. It was used mainly as like an organization of people, like the Comuna Medellin, which is the area of Colombia they would be in. And some nuances that I noticed within the show and the culture is that they were very family oriented. The family was a very important part for all of them, and also respect is highly necessary between them and people within the community. It's very noticeable that he always had to have earned respect, and just anybody in the Colombian community wanted that as well. My next activity was listening to Spanish Spotify stations. I did that for about an hour and a half while doing homework or any other thing. And some of their vocabulary were commonly used between many songs because their songs are very similar. And the music that I mainly listened to was called reggaeton, which is like the hip hop of Spanish. And some vocabulary that I did not know previously but learned from the songs, which is te boté, which means I left you. It's also a title of Bad Bunny's song. And chambea, which means load, another Bad Bunny song. And me rehuso means I refuse. And vuelvas means come back. And rompiste is broke. And some nuances that I noticed between the songs and the stations were that many songs are about love or heartbreak, and they all have a very upbeat tone to it, rhythm, for dancing purposes, because that's how reggaeton is, even if it is about love or heartbreak. And the main artists that I listened to were Bad Bunny, J Balvin, and Ozuna, so they all had very similar style in the way their songs were performed. And for my last activity was a real life experience, which is a conversation I had with my grandmother she just recently came back from Peru, and that was for about 30 minutes. And just the conversation was just her talking to me just as normally, but I don't really talk to her in Spanish as much. So she just taught me some new vocabulary and some main slang that is used in Peru. And for example, al toque, which means right away, and luca means money, chamba means job, and porfa is just a shortened version of por favor, which means please. And some nuances I noticed were it was always greeted by a hug and kiss on the cheek, which is in many cultures as well. And also a very thing I noticed that between a lot of members of my family is they want to be very helpful, which goes, for example, for the words that were used, because she was just talking to me about jobs and helping me with anything I needed. They always want to be a very important part of your help in a very important part that they can, any way they can. And some cultural comparisons to my culture and between any of these aspects were that they're very similar because I grew up in Hispanic culture, but also American culture because I live in America. Such as for Narcos, they are very family oriented, so is my culture. To be have very good family relationships is very important. And for another one is reggaeton music is something I've been previously exposed to in my culture, is very similar to hip hop music here in English as well. the way their music is and what is said. And also, me and my grandma would have had the same conversation in English as that we did in Spanish. So, the comparisons are that it is very similar. And thank you for listening.